Indian news ma kwaba assign the ba wan kasa fidie so bio. Na maka trust before anything else na just a share na ebiem so kwa na wo subscribe to your channel no. What's the fa political news there? Never governance. We catch you sa pan put to forma yet. Na pan to forma yet there. Ane na nsem foforo bi enso asan esi. Benim say what the nsem ade ban nyina na ya na ya wote na ya wohwe na ya wofen so. Nti no nsem foforo bi esi a India news yan so pan ye to for me baby ati nyina chi no yensa atumi aka bi na yaso enso atimi atisa nsem bi. Yentie nsem member sisi a na mpanifo mpo se kakum no ye che no koku enum de ba. Before that no subscribe to your channel no. Sabeka all other news a fa politics one the opesa wotie no ho etie ba ebe ba bia susu anso person de body no fa na de asie bia no so fa comment anso to ase ne yenkenkan informaw de ready na emeko yentie nsem mercy a wotie no fa comment to ase ba de emfa nchemu no so ento aso yentie mra.
She's a member of the NDC's communications team. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Good
I hope I didn't massacre the name.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Of Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu. We understand the Attorney General has filed a motion against her judicial review application. I'll take a few paragraphs of a story we've carried online, channel1news.com, which says, AG seeks dismissal of CJ Tokonu's judicial review application at Human Rights Court.
I'm very happy.
Arthur, and it reads, the Attorney General has filed an application at the Human Rights Division of the High Court, urging the court to strike out a judicial review motion initiated by the suspended Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tokonu. In an affidavit sworn by Reginald Ni Odoi, a state attorney at the Attorney General's Department, the state asserts that the Chief Justice's motion is fundamentally flawed due to a grave misstatement of capacity and the non-inclusion of mandatory and essential parties, which it argues renders the application invalid. Now, the affidavit maintains that the matters raised by the Chief Justice are either already the subject of judgment or currently under the consideration of the Supreme Court. Among the cited cases are there are a number of cases they've listed here. But according to the Attorney General, allowing the Human Rights Court proceed with the review would amount to overstepping judicial boundaries and conflict with the authority of the Supreme Court. Right, so these are a few paragraphs of the story as carried on channel1news.com. When you go online, you get the details there. Remember that the show is interactive. We'd like to hear from you. Send us your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions based on the discussions that will go on regarding these matters. Now, I'll start with you, Falong. The matter of the suspended CJ, you would agree that having been at the top when it comes to the judiciary in this country, it's not so easy having your way in court. Despite having been the CJ, and if you watch how the issues have transpired, she went to Supreme Court and lost. She's actually facing some of her colleagues at the committee level, and she's come public with what she feels is an unfair treatment. Your take?
I just want to say good morning to Victoria, the lady downstairs. She cleaned up my face very nicely.
Right, job well.
Has made me. I've been reading a lot of law. I think by the time
becoming law students.
by the time the case is over, I'll qualify to be called a lawyer. I admire her right to defend herself. It is within her right to defend herself to the best of her ability, and that's what she's doing. I'm sure any of us accused would also attempt to defend ourselves successfully or not. But while I admire her right to defend herself, in the process of defending herself, let's avoid creating problems that infringe on the rights of other people also. We have seen her filing. Now, the Attorney General has come out to say that the application for judicial review that has been filed by the Chief Justice has some issues which undermines its competence effectively before the courts. He hasn't said so in a vacuum. He's given about 3 or so reasons for which he says that. Now, let's look at the issues that the Attorney General has raised. He talks of a misstatement of capacity.
Yeah.
And all judicial review applications must be brought in their correct legal forms. So the Attorney General is correct when he says that there is a certain failure there to join the necessary parties, because then you exclude them from responding in the capacities that they are acting. Although it's not a personal issue, they are acting by the authority of their offices. Now, when you exclude them and issues affect them, they cannot respond. So, I don't know, is she allowed to go back and make the amendments? I mean, that's up to the court. It also says that, I think he correctly evokes something they call judicial economy, right?
Yeah.
He is pointing out that the matters that she has raised have either been already addressed by the Supreme Court or are presently pending before the Supreme Court, which is true. You know, some of these issues have already been struck out by the Supreme Court, but the substantive issue is still pending. You know, if the substantive issue is still pending before the Supreme Court, allow the apex court to decide. Now, when you take the issue to a lower court, right, because if you've taken the issue to the High Court, you are undermining the authority of the Supreme Court.
And that's where the Attorney General says you're overstepping the judicial boundaries.
Exactly. Right, he's the lawyer. He understands the terms better than me. So if the issue has already been determined by the Supreme Court or is pending before the Supreme Court, exactly what do you mean by taking that same issue to the High Court? So let's assume that the High Court sits on the issue and passes judgment. Are you trying to say that we will uphold that over what the Supreme Court has said or is doing? I think in this case also, I completely agree with the Attorney General, right? Now, he also mentions that Article 146, the processes under Article 146 are insulated by the Constitution. They are clearly spelled out within the Constitution. Every single thing that is presently being done is governed by Article 146 of our own Constitution, 1992 Constitution. So it provides an investigatory committee and a very clear procedure that is being followed. Now, that procedure, it's outside the purview of lower courts. Okay, and lower courts, I mean that respectfully. So you cannot then take the dictates of Article 146 and set it aside and then take the issue to the High Court.
She finds fault with the processes under 146 currently underway.
So you mean she finds fault with the Constitution?
Well, not necessarily with the Constitution, but with the implementation of same, saying that currently the process she's being subjected to is unfair. She feels her rights are being trampled upon. And that's why she's gone to the High Court based on a human rights matter.
About rights being trampled upon. I still haven't been told exactly which right is being trampled upon. I can argue that someone is doing something against me. But then you have to point at exactly what is being done against you, right? Are you saying that the state has no right to evoke Article 146?
It does.
Are you saying that any part of the procedure has been done wrongly? No. The procedure is being correctly followed. It's okay to be uncomfortable by the proceedings, but do the proceedings actually infringe on your human rights?
Well, according to her, it does.
There are also people who are aggrieved by things she has done, right? And they have also brought their petitions. Exactly. It is important that every person is accorded the respect of following through. You know, Article 146 also tells us that these proceedings should be held quietly in camera. They have already been breached by this whole press conference and exposing so much information, making so many allegations. What I was disappointed by during the press conference was, after the press conference, I was expecting
her to take questions.
Thank you. You know, after you make allegations, open yourself up to interrogation. so that people also have the right to ask and get some clarity on the allegations that you have made. Otherwise, you have just come to make allegations against persons, which also infringes on their human rights, right? I could say, I mean, you have made allegations that are untrue, you know, because most of what she said are arguable, okay? Now, after you have made all, this is a serious matter. If you come out, you have decided to make the issue public. One of the reasons the former president struck out the previous petitions was because he said it was leaked on social media, right? On that basis, what happened? The entire thing was struck out. Now you come out, the CJ, who understands the provisions of Article 146 and the need for the strictness around that whole proceeding, comes out and puts all the information out there. Now, you finish doing that, you make allegations against people, you make a lot of statements, and you refuse to allow yourself to be interrogated by what you yourself have said. That is a little disingenuous for me, you know. Submit yourself to, at least, the journalists also want to. You can't, even if you decide to say the whole process is politicized, those journalists there are not politicians. They just have simple questions for you. That one too you cannot answer. Unfortunately, I do not find any merit in this judicial review, and I completely agree with the Attorney General.
Very well.
Ayene.
Very well. Engineer, let me pick your thoughts. The CJ has gone public with issues she feel, based on which fairly. She raised a number of issues, even regarding the composition of the committee. She actually cited Justice Puamang in there. Even the venue for the hearings, she thinks is deliberately to intimidate her, and a host of others. Now she's in court fighting for her rights, and then the Attorney General is countering, saying, your thoughts?
Okay. I have heard a number of legal minds speak on some of the things that she's done, the press conference, and what she's seeking to do. And to the point that, one, it wasn't proper for her to come public, which violates Article 146. But the other one was that if she was aggrieved, she just simply needed to go to court, which she has now done. She didn't need to come public. She simply needed to go to court, which I agree with. But I think that the public engagement didn't help her.
Really?
No, I don't think it's helped her. Because, you see, she made reference to Edu Lodge in that press conference.
Yeah.
And subsequently, people have gone to read the SIB report and quoted that, look, what you are saying has no basis. Because the reference to Edu Lodge in that document happened only in October, way after the murder of the judges.
Yes. Yes.
Which took place in June. And the allegation that Chachu Chikata met someone there was not even in the lodge itself. It was in front of the lodge, on the streets.
Yeah.
So why seek to put out such a statement? So I think that those who held there or put that thing into the press release didn't help her cause. Because you are a chief, what do you call it, Chief Justice for that matter. You should know better. You have been at the practicing law for all these years. So I think that some of those things didn't help her. Now again, she makes complaints about Justice Puamang, which for me seems fair. But the question we ask again, as professionals in this country, is that a similar thing happened to Chachu Chikata.
Right.
When Justice Afre sat also on the Fast Track High Court, Chachu challenged the constitutionality of the Fast Track High Court.
Yeah.
And Justice Afre was empaneled to sit on the Supreme Court panel that ruled on that matter. Is that not a similar case that is happening here? Where was she and where was the Ghana Bar Association? What did they say about it? So for me, it's for us to develop as a country, professionals and professional associations need to be consistent with statements. We need to uphold the professional integrity and not turn when it suits us or when. And the over-politicization of every single issue in this country, for me, is worrying. Why is it that the government in power takes on a Chief Justice? Suddenly, the opposition thinks that it is their right to defend the Chief Justice. So for me, and that is how a lot of things get washed out in this country, and justice is not delivered. Because someone who may have held office is being tried, and suddenly a political party rises and say, no, 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 no. So the over-politicization of issues here doesn't help in the delivery of justice in this country, because our political parties are too sensitive to the next election. So justice is not being delivered in this country, clearly. I mean, look at the number of corruption cases throughout the Fourth Republic.
Right.
How many have actually been conclusively dealt with? Look at the current arrests that are going on. Look at the previous arrests that went on. How many people have really been prosecuted successfully?
It's the same old story.
The same old story.
The cycle goes
the
round.
The cycle
round,
just
round.
goes round. So every government comes and then says, let's do this, and then the other party says, no, this is. So for me, justice delivery is being seriously undermined with all the actors that are involved here. Professionals, lawyers, our political parties, and state institutions are not behaving properly. So I think that is a worrying thing for ordinary Ghanaians. How many Ghanaians would have had the privilege that the Chief Justice is having at this moment? Most ordinary Ghanaians, when they are caught or arraigned before the court, have very little defense because everything is about money. So you ask yourself, is justice for the rich? These are the things that worry ordinary Ghanaians. And I think that our political party, if they are really interested in serving the needs of the people of this country, need to look at their conduct seriously, both in government and out of government. And that is what I don't see playing out properly. Because the statements that were made before the NDC itself won political power lends credence to what the opposition also says, that you are seeking to remove the Chief Justice because you want to pack the courts.
Yeah.
And clearly by the
nomination and
the
appointment
swearing of seven new justices, it lends credence to what the opposition is also saying. So I think that our conduct in government and our conduct out of government must serve the needs of the people of this country, rather than playing to political parties' interests. Because at the moment, all I see is that political parties are more interested in protecting themselves than developing this country. In the last 30 years, I mean, of multi-party democracy, what has ordinary Ghanaian gained? I keep asking this question. Apart from the political actors who have seemed to have accrued wealth